hello. How's it going, people? Welcome to the stream. International break is over. Premier League season is about to kick off once again. We are getting closer and closer to that moment, and obviously, more and more Arsenal news are coming out. Interestingly enough, also the January transfer window is coming up, and quite a bit of transfer rumors are starting to pop up. Either it's due to the fact that it's actually happening. The January transfer window is legitimately like 40 days away, which is obviously one of the reasons, but ultimately as well, it's international break. Nothing to talk about in terms of Premier League and other leagues too much, except injuries and maybe some things revolving around the club, like for United, Amorim is the new coach and the training sessions, Arsenal, sporting director, stuff like that, but also stands to reason why there are quite a bit of transfer rumors, because usually during international breaks some transfer rumors tend to pop up, they tend to be discussed and everything. Obviously Gyökeres as well scored 4 goals yesterday. Definitely I was expecting some reports about that Arsenal linked with a guy who scored 4 goals, and it was rightly so. But today we're gonna talk about some other players Arsenal have been linked with, and to be honest, I'm not gonna lie, one of them I'm quite excited about, other one I don't want to see near the club. We're gonna talk about a bit about one of the potential Edu replacements, which we kind of touched upon yesterday and everything, so we're definitely gonna talk about that. Injuries, injury issues, and potential transfer boosts in terms of the fact that some of the key players, to matter of fact, could be playing for Arsenal against Nottingham Forest, because on Saturday Arsenal are facing Nottingham Forest in a Premier League game at home at the Emirates, with basically hopes that something's gonna change. That is ultimately my hope, that Arsenal actually from now till the end of the season goes on a winning streak, generally wins every single game in Premier League and in Champions League and the Cups, because we need to start building up momentum. We need to get the job done. We need to actually put ourselves in favorable situation in terms of transfer window, because at the moment it doesn't look too likely that Arsenal will do much business in January transfer window. But maybe, just maybe, if we close the gap on Liverpool somehow, we actually manage to do something. But obviously I'm not too expecting nothing much, but definitely gonna talk about all of that. So if you're new around here, of course, don't forget to smash thumbs up, don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell. We are trying to get to 400 subscribers before the end of this calendar year, so in 40 days. And yeah, leave a comment down below. If you're watching this as a playback, definitely gonna try and answer every single one. And if you're not, then genuinely, if you're live in the chat, leave your thoughts in the chat. We definitely can discuss those as well. But today we're kicking things off with yesterday's reports. We're gonna talk a bit about Luis Campos, because yesterday the PSG CEO was emerged as one of the targets, one of the bigger targets in terms of CEOs available on well, their contracts are running out basically, because the guy from Real Sociedad, I forgot his name on top of my head, his contract also runs out. Campos is also apparently contract runs out at the end of this season. So this is one of those guys Arsenal are looking at. And if we get him, that actually could be kind of exciting. Obviously, granted, if we give the money to him and all that stuff. But here it is. Luis Campos has emerged, obviously, as a leading candidate to replace Edu as sporting director at Arsenal. And I'm not gonna lie, if we signed him as a sporting director, I know he's 60 years old and everything, but if we signed him, that would be a bit different. That actually would maybe show that we are somewhat serious. Obviously, it feels like he did nothing at PSG, because PSG, besides Ligue 1 and the Cup in France, has done nothing on the international stage in terms of Champions League and stuff like that. So it's a bit of a worry, obviously, but ultimately he also has been there for Monaco, for Lille, as it says. Campos is widely regarded as the most successful talent sparer in the world after unearthing gems at Monaco and Lille. And the biggest thing is Arsenal need talent sparers, because we have sacked pretty much whole scouting room. Edu did that, and we have no talent ID in our club whatsoever. Hence why we signed players like Kivior. Obviously, stands to point. But if you look at these things, the best signings and sales that Luis Campos has made. Big up coach in the chat, big up my guy, big up. My week actually is going quite well, ironically, interestingly enough, to be honest. I'm surprised it's going as well as it is. So hopefully you're doing great as well this week. But yeah, as you can see, there's obviously the Arsenal's one of the record signings at the time in Nicolas Pepe, signed for 18, sold for 80. Obviously, Lille sold Osimhen to Napoli for 78, signed only for 22. James Rodriguez got sold. Lemar got sold for 72. Remember the transfer window when Arsenal wanted to offer like 90 million for Lemar? That still feels weird, and obviously, in my opinion, that never happened, but they need to put something in media, so it looked like we tried. Obviously, Martial, the next Thierry Henry, as he was labeled when he joined Manchester United, for 60 million, signed only for 5. Bernardo Silva sold to Man City. Rafael, that was a great one. Fabinho, Botman as well, Sumare. Quite a bit of signings that he has made or scouted or found different types of players and always managed to sell them for massive prices. Obviously, it also coincides with the fact that these teams were actually doing quite fantastically well. Let's be real, because Monaco at the time was phenomenal with Fabinho, obviously, and other players. Lille as well was quite fantastic at the time before they started to sell off their best guys. But they always do well, and to be honest, with him at the wheel, it's interestingly enough that there is no PSG players here. So that is actually quite interesting, because PSG is obviously a different model, different type of that club, and it stands to a point that there is actually no players from there. But if we actually signed Luis Campos, I actually would be quite excited, I'm not gonna lie. Because that would definitely mean that Arsenal are meaning at least some sort of business, some sort of seriousness, and that should definitely reflect also on the transfer window, at least hopefully. And given the fact that he actually can sell players properly, it also I would expect at least, to mean that we actually could sell some players for proper money, not be this wannabe team at like a flea market sale, basically, for discount price, a special price for you, my friend, as they may say. Nothing in those terms. That would be actually quite fantastic as well. And obviously, with him being a sporting director, if we went after a player, knowing how Arsenal tend to do business, we usually, let's be real, got laughed out of negotiations. With him being there and leading the negotiations, that actually could play quite massive role. He actually could be one of those that make our knock when we go after a big player quite solid and quite firm. It wouldn't be like Edu knocking like a scared little girl on the door and he couldn't negotiate his way out of a paper bag, pretty much. So that there is hope. There is hope. The fact is, we have seen this also with our transfers, because we have been linked with, over the years, with Benzema, Ronaldo, Luis Suarez and other players. And at the end of the day, we signed Maroun Chamakh, Nicholas Bentner. We signed Yussi Benayoun and players like that. Like, in a way, I want to get my hopes up in terms of the fact that Arsenal actually could do some proper stuff and sign actually a proper sporting director. At the same time, if transfers are any indication, we are gonna be linked with the Real Sociedad guy, with Campos and guys like that, and at the end it will be Tomasz Rosicki. Genuinely feels that way. And on top of that, let's be real, Luis Campos feels like a sporting director that won't take any crap from Arteta as well, given that how big of a role he has at Arsenal at the moment. He needs someone who can slow him down, stop him in his tracks, and I think if Campos came in, there's a possibility he actually could do that. Genuinely, he actually could do that. But yeah, that's enough about Campos. Today also I read that Liverpool have renewed their interest in Marcus Thuram, who has £70 million release clause that is active until the end of 27-28 season. It's interesting that Arsenal were linked with Marcus Thuram at the time when he was leaving Borussia Mönchengladbach, and ultimately it never materialized into anything. That is actually quite an interesting one, quite a weird one in this instance. But yeah, now if we could go after him, do I want him at Arsenal per se? It would be a massive coin toss. I wouldn't say we need him desperately. I would prefer a more prolific striker at the moment that is available. At the same time, he also wouldn't be the worst option. He definitely would be improvement on anything we have had since Aubameyang, pretty much. So that also is the case. So this would be very interesting if Arsenal went for him, given that he's available. If Liverpool can get him, why could not we? Now, the big thing is today, though, as I see it in the chat, PSG are ready to let Randal Kolo Muani leave on loan in January. Arsenal and Man City both watched the French forward during recent international window. Arsenal have been linked with him before. And here it is, coach, the advocate for Kolo Muani. Told you about Kolo. We discussed this 3-4 weeks ago as well. Let's be real. They listen to the channel genuinely. I must do better. Also, don't want Kolo. Exactly. Genuinely, I don't want Kolo Muani at Arsenal. He is like taller version of Eddie Nketiah. Just as bad, if not worse, and he's just taller. That's about it. He's like a mix between Kai Havertz and Eddie Nketiah. Both awful, pretty much, more or less. Although Havertz invades space, like apparently we signed him, that's why. And both can't finish, and both are very unreliable. Like, I don't want him. PSG paid 70 million to Eintracht Frankfurt for him. 70 million for this guy. Had one good season at Frankfurt and they instantly sold him. That's why you never buy in one season wonder hype. Like, let's be real, and PSG fell straight into that trap, signed him for a massive price, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't want to see him nowhere near Arsenal. I don't want him here, I don't want to see him here, and if he signs for Arsenal at any given time, the streams will genuinely be fire, and not in a good way. It will be very, 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 very on the edge between many, many, many things. Let's just put it that way. I don't want Randall Kolo Muani nowhere near Arsenal. Even on loan, I don't want him. Genuinely. Because last season, if we check actually Kolo Muani, if we check Kolo Muani, what he has done over the years, right? Last season, for example. This season, he has 12 games, 2 goals. That's already screaming a no for me, let's be real. Last season, he had, in 26 games in Ligue 1, by the way, in French League, 6 goals, 5 assists. 26 games, 6 goals, 5 assists. Season they signed him from Eintracht Frankfurt. Now, if we go just randomly, because we can, and go compare him to Folarin Balogun, the guy we sold to keep Eddie Nketiah. This season already, despite the injury, in 6 games less, he has 1 more goal. So he has 6 games, 3 goals in Ligue 1, and in 8 games he has 3 goals and assists. Remember, Kolo Muani in 12 games had 2 goals this season. So in less games he already is doing more. And last season, in 29 games he had 13 points. Again, more than Kolo Muani. And let's not forget the season he had before at Reims, when he genuinely was on fire, where in 37 games he had 21 goals. So he has done better than Kolo Muani in general. So why would Arsenal entertain this idea is genuinely shocking to me. Beyond shocking. Why there are links with him also is hella shocking. There are so many better strikers available. You can get Osimhen, you can get Gyökeres, Isak. If you want to buy in one season hype for now, you can sign Marmoush and players like that. Genuinely. There are players that are better than him already. Now the question is, does Arsenal buy in that hype? Does Mikel Arteta want Kolo Muani? And what has Edu drawn up before he jumped the ship for January transfer window? Because there are numerous reports saying that Edu had already drawn up plans for January transfer window, and his replacement at the moment, his backup, the Eito, his notepad basically, is gonna follow that plan. Allegedly. That's obviously according to rumors and everything. But if Randall Kolo Muani is on that list, I will be genuinely throwing hands. I'm not gonna lie. That could be genuinely abysmal. Big up Nathan in the chat. Big up my guy. Can we sign a world-class player, even just one like Wirtz? That's the thing. Can we sign? Yes, we can. Will we sign? That is a completely different question. Because we can sign quite a bit of players, let's be honest. We can sign many players if actually they sanction the money to us, if Kroenkes give us the money, because we are not poor, let's be real. We actually can sign players. The thing is, will they give us the money? Will Arteta sign him? Will Arteta want that player? Because currently Arsenal are at the stage where we need to sign high-end, high world-class type of players. What comes with those players? Obviously huge prices, huge salaries. If we take that out of the equation, with that, more often than not, comes a big ego. And Arteta can't handle egos, we all know that. He wants only yes men. He doesn't want players to challenge him. But to grow as a manager, you need someone to challenge you. You have assistant coach who must challenge you. Board must challenge you. CEO must challenge you on the signings. Obviously, same goes for players and everything. But Arteta doesn't want that. He wants only everyone who agrees along the road. And that is something that could be the biggest downfall of Mikel Arteta yet. Obviously, Kai Havertz is the one and everything, but that definitely could be the case. Kolo Muani on loan better than Sterling on loan. I don't want any on loan. Genuinely any on loan. Wait. You want Kolo Muani on loan. Sterling we pay what? 100 grand a week, something like that, correct? Correct. Let's see what PSG are paying Kolo Muani. Let's see what PSG are paying Kolo Muani first to see what we could be getting. Kolo Muani, where is that guy? Kolo Muani. Kolo Muani at PSG is earning 240,000, that's euros, so about 230,000 pounds a week. 230 bags for Kolo Muani on loan. Are you mad? Obviously, you cannot see him here because the camera is cut. If I do it this way, right, you could see here like this. If I put Kolo Muani here, right, it's 240,000 bags. He earns that at PSG, and Nathan wants him on loan. I'm sorry, but what? Seriously, what? That sounds like pure insanity to me, I'm not gonna lie. Genuinely, that sounds like pure insanity to me, if that is the case. That is actually hella wild. He earns 200, he earns the same money as Jesus pretty much. No chance in hell. No chance in hell. Well, you said he's better on loan than Sterling. Sterling gets at least 100 bags a week from Arsenal and stinks out the joint. If we get him, more likely than not, we're gonna have to pay the full money for him and he will still stink out the joint. We have already these Jesuses, Zichenko's, Havertz even, who basically get paid that kind of money and what are they doing on the pitch? Like, what the hell is this? Exactly like Guirassy from Stuttgart, he's thinking a Dortmund. That's the thing. People were linking us with Guirassy. Arsenal, I think, were linked with Guirassy as well. Where is he now? He's doing almost not. What is Guirassy, by the way, doing at Borussia Dortmund at the moment? Because same thing is, I'm gonna be honest with you. He's actually not doing bad at Borussia Dortmund in those terms. 13 games, 9 goals, 4 assists. You say he's stinking out the place. He actually is not that much stinking out the place. Based on stats, he is not stinking out the place. Let's just put it that way. Based on stats. He actually is not having a bad season. They lost to Stuttgart, by the way, lol. He scored, missed, scored, assisted, scored. So it's actually not that bad. He plays a full 90 almost every single game. He gets pass or assist. The thing is, I wanted, during transfer window, if we cannot get anyone, like obviously Gyökeres, Isak, I wanted Victor Boniface, right? At the moment, I'm very lucky that he's kind of cooled off a bit compared to last season, but still, 10 games in Bundesliga, 6 goals, 1 assist, is still more than any Arsenal player we have at the moment in the team. That is also the case. I wanted Victor Boniface at the time. Last transfer window, if we could not get Osimhen, if we could not get Gyökeres or Isak, all of those 4. That's the thing. I don't see him doing Premier League as well, but personally, like a selfish decision, if I had the chance, I would have taken my punt on him. Obviously, Guirassy, as coach mentioned, he was available for what, like 20 million last summer. Why didn't we sign him? Like total unit up top. Why not take a punt on him? Amorim wants Karl Hein. That is a weird one. Why would he want Karl Hein? We talked about this as well a few weeks ago. Why does Amorim want Karl Hein? If he pays us like 60 million, why not then? Like 60 million for Karl Hein, why not? I'm praying for the Guler links. To be honest, same. We're gonna talk about him in a second. I don't want money, but if we ship Sterling back now and bring Muani, it's an improvement. Well, is it really an improvement? Because Kolo Muani technically is a striker, technically a 9, right? If we have to pay him the full amount of 240 grand a week, is it really an improvement for a mediocre player who basically is somewhat of a mix of Havertz and Eddie Nketiah, basically? Kolo Muani for me is French Eddie Nketiah. That's how I see him. Because he cannot even score properly in French league. Like, he played for Bundesliga, but look at Bundesliga, look at Eintracht Frankfurt from where PSG signed him from. Most of the strikers that play for Frankfurt are banging goals left, right and center. It was Meyer at the time, it was obviously Marmoush now, it was Jovic at the time as well, when he got all the hype, and what's his face now, who is there, who was there, who we talked about, Kolo Muani as well. Like, think about it. It just depends on the system they play in. If they create enough chances, it's similar like, for example, RB Leipzig, Šeško, Openda, Timo Werner. They all more or less look like world beaters in that team. Solely based on the fact how RB Leipzig plays. As soon as you put them in a different system, they are not nowhere near half as effective. So then it all genuinely falls down to the manager or the player. Either player adjusts and actually keeps on going, or the manager needs to change some tactics to cater the needs of the striker. And I don't see any of those happening at the moment. Genuinely. System. But that's what it is. Ultimately, that's what it is. You rarely see a player these days who basically goes from team to team. Let's just say he, in his career, goes to 3-4 clubs, right? And he basically is more or less the same level at any club he goes to. Very rarely. Because most of the time you see players, especially attackers, go to a certain club, they play a different system, they cannot adapt, or the coach doesn't want to adapt, doesn't want to coach him properly to fit the system, and he stinks out the place most of the time. And due to the fact that in that system from the team he got signed from, he was on good stats, they got paid top dollar over the top. Like the, I don't know, performance tax pretty much, on top of the actual price. Now they have to sell him for a loss, basically. Like, to be fair, Onana moving to United, you wouldn't say it killed his career. His career was very different though. He fell out with the Cameroon manager. He had that issue with the wife and his painkillers and everything. So he didn't play for the longest time as well. So it's not ultimately him, but I'm not gonna lie, he is awful. Like, he is awful there. Compared to what he was at at Ajax, for example. Like, it's night and day completely. Genuinely night and day. Because look how Van de Beek was playing, for example, for Ajax, and how he is looking at United. Now he plays for Girona, and he's looking a bit better. I'm not gonna lie, he's actually looking better at Girona than he's looking at United. Because I would say Girona play more similar to Ajax than they play to United, completely. And that is the case. Very rarely you see, for example, okay, there are obviously the exceptions to the rule. Like I just said, for example, Haaland. He was banging goals in Molde. He was banging in goals at Salzburg. He was banging in goals at Borussia Dortmund. And he is banging goals at City. There are exceptions to the rule. But most of the time when these players start going from team to team, it is quite heavily based on the system. Genuinely based on the system. Because how comes, for example, let me think about this. There are Arsenal players as well. They are performing fantastic. That's the thing. Grealish fell off. But why did he fell off? Because Pep made him a system player. And Grealish just doesn't play well in a system like that. If you look how he played at Aston Villa, he was one of the centerpieces, if not the centerpiece pretty much. He had all the freedom he wanted. He was the key role in the attack, passing, shooting wise. Most of the time the ball went through him. He was the focal point, and he could genuinely show what he was made of. As soon as he went to the City for 100 million, he was sitting on the bench for a year pretty much. He had to adjust to the system. he became a system player and he instantly fell off. But at the same time, you cannot also deny that when he was playing more often than not, obviously it's very circumstantial depending on the season and depending on the situation, but he was also one of the main catalysts at certain moments, like months or weeks, in City's title races when they have done the four-peat, where he was one of the reasons why City actually won the league as well. Like, that is the thing. It's genuinely circumstantial depending on the system. Because there are no reason for certain players just to fall off from the face of the earth as soon as something changes. It's prime for me also. Prime instance is also Martinelli at Arsenal. 2 seasons ago, banging goals left, right, and center. Exciting, exhilarating, quick pace, bang, 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 move, pass and move, cross, shoot, do whatever you want. Everything almost feels like it's going in, and he's on top of the world. But again, yes, you could say partially it's on the player because he hasn't improved under Mikel Arteta, but again, that is on him and Arteta as well. But also it's partially because of the tactics how Arteta used to play. He realized that he cannot win the league with rock and roll attacking football, and he completely went from one end of the spectrum of attacking football to the other side of the spectrum to complete total control and defense, more or less. And in that instance, when you have to defend first and then attack, Martinelli will never thrive in that role. Because he needs space, he needs freedom, he needs overlaps and everything, but Arsenal don't play that anymore. He doesn't get that help that he needs, and the tactics don't help that as well. That is also the case. Arsenal also have these prime examples. Only player who has more or less sustained the level or improved on the level since Arteta took over 5 years ago is Bukayo Saka. But that's also more often than not based solely on GA. Like generally that's solely based on GA. Because when Arteta just came in, Saka was dribbling past players, dropping a shoulder, and doing everything. Now most of the time, he gets a cross or a random shot. He takes on opponents very rarely at the time. It's more about ball retention, safe passing, and creating the perfect opportunity to score. Which even when we create, more often than not we miss. Because we don't have a clinical finisher up top to kind of bury that chance. No one cares how crap the football is as long as you can't even park the bus properly. Exactly. Because if you park the bus and you lose, everyone will make fun of you because you parked the bus and you lost. But when you park the bus and win, it will be a stinky win, and people will say, "Oh, it's because he parked the bus. They got a lucky counter and everything. They just played on counters." So you cannot win in this footballing world at this current situation. But at the end of the day, win is a win. Let's be real. The win is a win. What? Exactly. White and Gabriel have improved, but the thing is, White also, if we left him as a center back when we just signed him for 15 million, I really doubt he would be in the position he is currently. It generally took him a position change from center back to right back to actually kind of get better. Because at center back in that first season when he was playing there when we just signed him, he was woeful. Let's be real. As soon as we moved him to the right back, he started to play a bit differently, and everything, he kind of opened up and he actually became who he was. That's what it feels like. Now on occasion he can slot into that center back spot, but to consistently be the center back that we need, it won't work. He's more of a right back now. And that ultimately, again, there is a reason why he gets talked about more than one of the best right backs in the league over the last, let's just say, 3 seasons, than a center back, because at center back he is not that good. Gabriel as well, he has improved. Let's be real, Gabriel actually has gotten better. Like, he was making very many mistakes. He had a Bozo Gina massive one, and he has almost limited that down to nothing at the moment. And that is also a fair play to Saliba in that regard. But I read this as well, and think about this right now. I'm going to say this and think about this. The 3 biggest signings, right, that we have at Arsenal, that are basically arguably the centerpieces of the team, right? Saka, Martinelli at the time, of course, and partially still, and Saliba were all brought in by who? Unai Emery. And now, if you take those three players out of our squad, I don't know where we would be, actually. If you think about it, right, realistically, especially the 2 seasons ago when we finished second for the first time, 22-23 season. 3 of the biggest players that got unlocked was by Unai Emery. Even Emil Smith-Rowe you can include in that equation. And if we kind of remove them, if Emery didn't discover them, didn't sign them, didn't get them, where would we be right now? Because at the moment, when you sit here, it's almost impossible to imagine, for example, Arsenal without Saka, Arsenal without Saliba, those two more importantly. But if Emery didn't promote Saka, if Emery didn't sign Saliba, who knows who we would have in that position? But arguably you could say no one nowhere near as good more often than not in those terms. Like if you think it also that way. So it is what it is, I guess, at the end of the day. Of course, that's good that Emery found them out. He actually had a proper scouting system. He actually has a knack for finding talent. But if you look at it that way, the 2 of the most important players in our team, Saka and Saliba, were discovered by Emery, not Mikel Arteta. So where does that leave Arsenal in general then? What would happen to Arsenal if we didn't have those 2 players, for example? Who would be our right wing then? Who would be our right center back then? Because you can bet your sweet ass on it that at the time when we signed Saliba, they also Fofana, his best mate, got signed to Chelsea. Well, not Chelsea. He was at Leicester, but Chelsea, Leicester, basically. You get what I mean. And Saliba probably would have gone somewhere else. And imagine if he was somewhere else. He would be more often than not still the player he is today, but it wouldn't be at Arsenal. So it is a weird one if you look at it in a hindsight. Obviously, as they say, hindsight is a beautiful thing and all of that. But if you come to think of it, it could have been much, much worse. Especially that we have blown nearly 700 million, nearly 300 on defenders alone, and we still haven't gotten a proper backup for Saliba. Genuinely, still haven't. Proper backup, you could argue, for Gabriel as well. Because we have center backs all across the back line, pretty much. But we don't have actual wing backs. That is also the case. Well, we do, but we just don't play them. In AI tyranny, of course. But yeah, it is what it is, I guess, at the end of the day. That's how Arteta wants to play. But I think, genuinely, at some point, this how Arteta wants to play, that what he needs, and the way he envisions the team, with the fact that he is kind of very stubborn in adaptability and changing things, it will be the downfall of him. Sooner or later, if this doesn't change. Anyhow, moving swiftly on. A bit different stat, which is arguably very interesting because there are some surprising things here. The fastest Arsenal players in the Premier League so far this season. Obviously, we are 11 games in, right? And this is basically KPH, yeah? Based on average of each player's max speed from their 5 fastest games. Gabriel Martinelli being the fastest kind of doesn't surprise me. Saliba as well, given that he tracks back a lot and Saliba is very quick on his feet. Bukayo Saka, even though you don't see him sprint too much in a way, you still can see that he is quick, fast, right? For me, the biggest surprise in all of this, arguably, is Kai Havertz. Because he's 6'4", and when you watch the games, at least on TV, it feels like he's not that fast. Yes, there are instances when you basically look at him and when you just focus on him during games, you look at it and think, damn, he's quick. But you never would realize that he actually has the second highest speed in Arsenal as a over average of the fastest times. That is actually that is nuts if you come to think of it. Like, it's genuinely nuts. Now I see Havertz can book it. Havertz is actually quick somehow. That is the big thing. Just the thing is, we just don't let him play. That's the thing. We sometimes try to do that. That happened also against, who was it? Against Brighton when we got the red card and Havertz went one-on-one with the goalkeeper. he was actually pretty quick. He's actually very quick when he presses as well. It just feels very slow if you watched on TV. In the stadium, obviously, it's much quicker. But at the same time, if you would get asked, name top 3 fastest players in Arsenal at the moment, I can guarantee you that Havertz wouldn't be one of your 3 choices. You most likely would say like Martinelli, Saka, and Saliba. But it's actually Havertz has the highest speed from the 5 fastest sprint speeds by a long shot, because it's like half a kilometer an hour over Saka, 1.5, no, 1, a bit more than 1 over Gabriel, and generally Martinelli is the fastest by 1.5 kph. That's on. It may seem a very little if you drive a car, 1.5. It doesn't seem too much, but if you drive, let's just say 30 or 40 or 40, 1.5. But if you are looking at a sprint race where you run, that's actually a massive difference in those terms. Let's be real. But that is actually kind of wild. But we don't play in behind. It actually would be very interesting to see how Arsenal would look if Havertz was asked to play also with runs in behind together with Martinelli and Saka. That actually would be quite interesting, because these sprint speeds are kind of deceiving as well at times. But actually, at the same time, they're very true. Because remember, we got sold the dream that Kiwior has broken Theo Walcott's sprint record in training and everything. Yet when he runs on the pitch, he's as fast as Per Mertesacker. There is no consistency with these. It's actually kind of wild. This was one of those weird stats I saw today, and I thought, you know what? I need to include this in the stream. I genuinely need to, because it's a weird one, but it actually works. The good news is, though, over this international break, is that it's been good international break for Arsenal, because Saka, Odegaard, Partey and Rice all were rested, all had injuries and everything. Saliba only played 1 game. Trossard was the only one to pick up a knock, and that also, according to rumors, was only a dead leg, so he actually could be ready for the game against Nottingham Forest on Saturday, which overall seems like a very good thing. Also, reports apparently are suggesting that let's close this. That Bukayo Saka's leg injury, according to Mail, are reporting that Saka should be fit to face Nottingham Forest, having been able to begin his rehab at the start of the international break, which actually for Arsenal is very good news. Rice, obviously, with the broken toe and all that crap, is a bit more of a doubt, but he could be. Obviously, Gunners are optimistic, but he could be ready. Not ready, but he could potentially be. Ben White obviously is out till the end of the year, and Trossard is the biggest one that is under the question mark. That's the big one. Obviously, Mikel Arteta will conduct an interview on Friday, so we have more light over that obviously then. But at the moment, it's a very interesting one. Trossard is under the question mark. Again, if we look at, for example, at Calafiori, he's expected to be ready for Nottingham Forest game as well, which also is fantastic news. We are getting our injured players back. Tomiyasu apparently he has a setback, and he should be back by December, so he definitely is not gonna play against Nottingham Forest. But overall, if you look at this, most of our players should be ready for the game against Nottingham Forest, obviously only excluding White, maybe Declan Rice for 1 game, and Takehiro Tomiyasu. Obviously, we are not including Tierney because God knows what's happening there. But overall, yeah, it looks like we are getting our players back, which again now means there are no excuses for Mikel Arteta, for players, for anyone, for awful performances right now. No excuses not to get the win, and no excuses to maybe go even undefeated in Premier League at least, till the end of this calendar year minimum. Because if we want to maybe decrease the gap to Liverpool, pull away to maybe at least try and secure the top 4 at first, and actually put us in position we actually could be going and sign someone in January, we must win all the games remaining in this calendar year. We're going to look at the schedule in a second, but basically I think you get what I mean when I say that, of course. Havertz has speed, hold up play, and intelligent movement. That's the thing, yeah, he needs a proper system. We saw that at Bayer Leverkusen, obviously. What Havertz needs more than proper system, arguably, is finishing. Because he gets at least 1 or 2 chances a game. That is a given more often than not. The question is, can he finish them? Obviously, there are games when we don't get a shot on target, we don't create anything. That can happen. But ultimately, he gets chances during games. The question is he ready to finish? And that is one of the biggest issues he has at Arsenal. Because at the moment, when you look at this Arsenal attack, I'm not gonna lie, we are missing a lot. We genuinely are missing a lot in the front three. In my opinion, we need 2 more signings in the front 3 line, in the attacking line, to have some fresh legs in there, have fresh blood to maybe get our attackers excited more and everything. We need some new players there, and that is also a big thing. Saka needs to step up. Liverpool, he was brilliant but ghosted since then. That is the thing. Saka, this whole season has been ghosting, being bang average. Yes, he has had moments of brilliance, but ultimately, if you look overall, he has been ghosting quite a lot. And people say, oh, why are you saying he got a goal, he got an assist during games or something like that? But let's be real, GA isn't everything. It's about the overall performance. Obviously, goals win you games, and assists to goals also can win you games and everything. But the performances matter as well. Because basically, if you get GA, you get the result, it's basically painting over cracks. Because if you don't call that out and you don't improve on it, you don't start putting also performances on besides GA, it's, as I said, painting over the cracks, putting a band-aid over basically a crack on the wall and hoping it sticks it together and everything. You actually need performances as well. You cannot just ride throughout the whole season based on GA. You need the moments, you need those moments, you need brilliant performances, and especially, you need those performances when it matters the most. Because nobody cares if you get 3 goals or get 2 assists, or goal and 2 assists, 2 goals, 2 assists against Preston, against, I don't know, like Ipswich Town or something. When you do that against Man City and you win the game, when you do that in Champions League against Bayern Munich, Real Madrid and teams like that, and you win the game because of it, then it matters. Because against the smaller teams you can stat pad all you want. But at the end of the season, if it leads up to nothing, might as well not have happened. Might as well score that 1 goal and got it over the line, and that's about it. And that is also Arsenal's the biggest issue. Because we get the results, we get the XG, we get the XA and all that stuff overall. But when you look at performances, it has been stink out the place every single time. Havertz is underperforming his XG. That is not good. Like, if you look at the XG, for example, he has 6.5 XG and he has scored 2 goals, that is an issue. Because he has scored 3 times less than he should be scoring. And if it continues throughout the whole season, it's a problem for him. It's a problem for the club and the whole season overall. So if we don't improve on that, it could be getting ropey. But obviously, when you don't create and you put in 46 crosses against Inter Milan, let's be real, that's not Arsenal. That's not how we should be playing. That's not how we should be hoping to score against against a club and against a nation, basically. That is pretty much getting their pride and being well known for their stonewall defenses. Where some of the greatest players in the history of football are specifically the defenders. So this cannot slide. Like, genuinely, that cannot slide. And that's why we need a striker. We need a striker who at least goes hand in hand, point per point with the XG, more or less, or even overperforms his XG. That's what we need. Because if Havertz underperforms XG, for example, he has 15 XG and he scores 6 goals, right? That's shocking for Arsenal. But at the same time, if we have, for example, Gyökeres or Isak, and he also has 22 XG, but he scores 26 goals. Yes, it's an issue for Havertz, but for a team overall, it's not as big of an issue anymore. Because if you cannot you are only as strong as your weakest link. And at the moment, Arsenal have more or less only weak links in the squad, based on their performances and everything. And that is showing. The way we're playing, the way we're passing the ball, the way we are shooting, the way we are getting results. Well, no results, let's be real. That is showing quite massively, let's be real. Yeah, and to be honest, that wasn't even Inter Milan's A team. That was Inter Milan's B team without 4 of their best players available. They were preparing for the game against Napoli. Like, that's how much they respected us. They basically took off 4 of their best players. They were on the bench to play against us. And they still got the result. And not scoring a goal in 4 away games in Champions League also is a massive, massive issue. But anyways, let's look at certain instances in hand. How could we resolve this situation? Arsenal apparently have made Alexander Isak their top attacking target, while Newcastle will consider Gomez Calvert-Lewin and Jonathan David as replacements. Both will be free agents in the summer. That's according to Team Talk. So the big question is, based on this overall report that Newcastle will consider DCL and Jonathan David as replacements and they are free agents in the summer, this for me screams that Isak is the Arsenal's top target for summer. If this is true, by the way, you have to put that in basically in the brackets. So it again puts very, very bad thoughts in my mind and makes me uneasy that there are no reports more or less for Arsenal in January to sign a striker. Most of these signings they talk about are summer signings. But how about this January? Because this January actually, long term, for the next summer, could decide a lot. Because if we keep this up, we sign no one in January, sorry. We get more injuries, we will fall out of top 4. Because let's be real, this summer was the chance for us to close the gap to City even more. And we decided to do nothing in those terms. Because we were legitimately like 3, maybe 4, if you push it, signings away to actually going for it properly and more likely than not getting it. Right? But without doing nothing in this summer transfer window, we allowed teams get closer to us. We didn't pull away from them. They actually got closer to us. And that is a big, big issue for me. Because when was the last time actually Arsenal went big in January transfer window? First thing that springs to mind is Aubameyang. But again, that was only because Wenger's ass was on fire due to the fact that Alexis Sanchez left to Man United. So we even need to look even further back in the past to find proper big spending to sign a player in January. Like, that's how bad it is. That's how bad it is. Yeah, they arrested quite a bit of players. The 4 big ones overall, they arrested about, I think, like 5, 6. Yeah, exactly. That's how bad it is currently overall, if that's the state of Arsenal, if you come to think of it. But there are some hopeful news. A player I actually really enjoy watching play for Turkey, when he plays at least for Real Madrid. Arsenal apparently are interested in a move for 19-year-old Arda Guler, who has struggled for minutes in joining Real Madrid. Now, this is something that I would love to see at Arsenal. 2 issues though, because if he performs well, there's a chance this would be another Odegaard scenario where we sign him. And then the question rises, where does that leave Ethan Vanieri? Because let's be real, since Bukayo Saka, you could make an argument that Ethan Vanieri is the hottest prospect that has come out of Haaland. If you could put genuinely that out there. And currently, Mikel Arteta hasn't even him given a proper chance in Premier League to start a game, to test him out, to see what he's all about. Because let's be real, if he started the games against Leicester and Bournemouth and Southampton, right, and he didn't perform, you could say he needs still to grow. He maybe is not ready for this yet, and you could make an argument for him to be loaned out. And then loaning in, for example, Arda Guler till the end of the season would actually make a lot of sense, let's be real. And since Arda Guler tends to play that right wing spot / number 10, he could actually cover for both Saka and Martin Odegaard. So in that regard, That actually would be fantastic potential for Arsenal. Let's not forget, Arsenal were linked to Arda Guler before he signed for Real Madrid. There were actually some links with Arsenal in that regard. And Arsenal apparently have contacted the player's entourage as well as Real Madrid to be informed of his situation. Arsenal see parallels. Why did I struggle to read that? I have no idea. Between Arda Guler and Martin Odegaard, and will try to repeat the operation in terms of signing the player on loan with hopes that he performs and then signing him full time. Basically, that's what happened with Martin Odegaard. Very sorry, it's very late and I'm hella tired after work, but it is what it is. But then again, that still raises the question, what is gonna happen with Ethan Nwaneri? Because he hasn't been even given a chance at Arsenal, a crack to start the game in Premier League. But we are already looking at Arda Guler and certain replacements. And that again shows how little the planning was in summer. We saw DSR, we loaned out Fabio Vieira. I'm not saying Fabio Vieira would raise the roof or anything, but he would actually be a backup. And to be honest, if you look from a TSR player we got rid of, he is much better than Sterling, what's its face, Jesus, players like that. Reece Nelson is doing more at Fulham than Jesus and Sterling combined has done at Arsenal throughout this whole season. So this again at times raises the question about Arsenal's transfer policies and their view of the team and its development. Because if you gave the opportunity to Nelson game time, maybe played him more a bit, gave Saka more of a rest, maybe if Saka doesn't get injured, maybe he can actually prove himself. But ultimately, it is what it is at the end of the day. Because we have seen this with ESR specifically. Arteta promised him that he will play a pivotal role in the transfer in the title race, but ultimately he played 2 games as a starter, got man of the match and won, and after that he played about 10 to 20 minute random substitution cameos till the end of the season. And obviously ESR got sick of it and said, that's it, I'm sick of Arteta, I need to think about my career, I'm handing in chance for guys, get me out of here. And it's quite interesting that he has gone to Fulham. He has set them on fire. He's performing very, very well there. And most importantly, compared to Arsenal, he's not getting injured whatsoever when he's playing more. So again, that comes down to Arsenal. How comes he gets injured here all the time, but never at Fulham pretty much? So that again is another big question that needs to be answered. Is the training ground grass and turf actually that rough? Or the training regime is actually that hard that players just cannot get out of it properly, cannot recover, or what is happening there? So, again, with Arsenal, when you look how they sell players, how they buy players, in 99% of the time, it raises more questions than gives answers to Arsenal's current situation. And that cannot continue if we want to be where we want to be and we want to actually challenge. That is a big, big question. I am worried because we have 2 DMs leaving. We should have got replacement last summer already. No way they can handle getting both and do other business. That's the thing as well. Partey's contract runs out at the end of the season. Same goes for Jorginho. More chance than not that Jorginho will leave or become under like 18's coach or something like that. Partey most likely also will leave, even though there were some very quiet rumors of Arsenal extending his contract. I don't see it happening personally at the moment, right? Even though he arguably has been the best midfielder this season for Arsenal, so it is what it is. But yeah, we are 2 DMs leaving on free, basically. Their contracts are running out, which now means we need to sign those 2 DMs, which means we're going to spend money on them. And where does that leave the rest of the team? Because Kroenkes want to expand Emirates. They will need to sign 2-3 players, and it will be the same story all over again. We will have to start another rebuild. So basically, we're gonna rebuild the rebuild which we started when we rebuilt. Basically, we're gonna have a rebuild within the rebuild within the rebuild. So this is not serious again. And we're gonna get told, oh, we have to pay for the stadium, then we don't have money. Oh, it's gonna be Project Youth. didn't work. Then it's gonna be Project English players, didn't work. We saw that under Arsene Wenger and Kroenkes, we saw that multiple times. And at the moment, it looks like we're gonna do this all again. And it's again gonna start the whole cycle from basically phase 1. Obviously, it shouldn't be a phase 1. And I don't even want to start again with a rebuild in phase 3 or phase 4. I don't want any phases. I want titles. I want to win. I'm sick of tired of not winning. I was watching a Dutch fraud, bold egg fraud, in Erik ten Hag stink out 2.5 years at Manchester United and yet winning 2 trophies there. In 2 years, he won more than Mikel Arteta has had in 5. Like, seriously, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? And currently, United are sitting 13th in the table. Arsenal are 4th. We are closer to Man United than we are to the top of the table. And with Ruben Amorim coming in, with fresh ideas, new tactics, new style, and by the looks of things, Ineos actually backing him, by the looks of things at least, it's just a matter of time until they're gonna overtake us. 100% like Amorim is gonna bin off players like Shaw most likely, Harry Maguire potentially. Although, Harry Maguire is very good at the 3 at the back formation, and Amorim prefers to play 3 at the back. So the question now stands, will he get rid of them? Obviously, that's just me speculating. But ultimately, Amorim will come in. Without shadow of a doubt, there will be new manager bounce for some time. But after that, Amorim will get them clicking. And 4-point difference from us 4th to United 13th is a 2-game swing. It doesn't take much. 1 draw against Nottingham Forest, a loss against United at our own home, by the way. If we do that, we are on level terms. We have conceded the same amount of goals as they have. They have scored almost the same as we have, so there is no difference between us, only the points on the table. We need 2 defenders, 2 DMs, at least 1 midfielder, 2 wingers, and a striker. Exactly, that is the thing. We're gonna start a rebuild within the rebuild, which we did to have a rebuild. For the rebuild, basically. That's what we're gonna do. Because we need 2 defenders. Without shadow of a doubt. As much as defenders we have, we need to sell Zinchenko, Kivior. You could put an argument to sell Tomiyasu because he's always injured. Tierney has to go. That's 4. Which means we need to replace them. Which means we need defenders. Partey, Jorginho most likely is gonna leave. We need to replace them. That's at least 2 more. We need a proper 8 on top. That's 3 midfielders. That's 5 players already. Then we need a backup for Saka. You could argue we need a proper left wing. Arguably, right? So that's 2 wingers. And we need a proper striker as well. And let's not forget, at the moment, at least currently, we don't have a proper backup for Odegaard as well. Which means we need a midfielder in number 10 role as well. So basically, we need to sign about 7 players in one window. We need to sell at least like 8. So basically, we need to sell one by one. The thing is though, there is no chance in hell Arsenal will do it in one window. It will again take 2-3 years. It will be like phase 19. When the dog will have puppies and his puppies is gonna have other puppies. We will say their puppy toys on the in the store, and we will still be in the phase 16, 15, 19. We will have expanded Emirates, and we will think for another expansion. If we get lucky, we will still be in Champions League. It's not looking great at the moment. It's genuinely not looking great. And ultimately, it falls all on Kroenkes for hiring this buffoon as the manager. And then it falls down to Edu and Arteta. Because yes, you can put it on the players, because they're not performing. But again, they can only perform as good as they can based on the tactics Arteta sets up, based on the way Arteta wants to play, based on who Arteta plays, which team he picks. And then of course the middleman is the biggest will take the biggest downfall. Arteta and Edu. Obviously Edu jumped the ship, so it's Mikel Arteta. His signings, his tactics, his vision. And if it falls flat with 700 million nearly spent, well, it's bound to happen eventually that it's his time to go. I would like to think that Arteta has enough integrity that he will see that this is not working anymore and he will resign himself. He thought about it 2 years ago when we finished second when we were in 22-23 season. He said that after that in the summer he was thinking about quitting. Obviously in the media it doesn't get told about that anymore because nobody wants to have negative PR about Arsenal. But I would like to think that if things fall flat this season, he will have enough decency and integrity to actually do it. Because he can take us as far as he can, but ultimately we need someone who can get us over the line. Arteta is a decent manager, but he needs a different challenge. He needs a lower end, a middle level team with less expectations. Because jumping from assistant to a first full-time job properly as the manager in a club who is one of the biggest clubs in England and in the world was never bound to happen and be a good outcome. It just was a matter of time until wheels fall off. Because you cannot have a guy who is learning on the job and in 5 years makes same mistakes over and over and over again, have everything right on him, that he's gonna be the big savior. It never happens like that. It never ever happens like that. It's Arteta is at fault. He made the decisions. Can't blame. Exactly. You cannot blame the players because he signed them. It's ultimately on Arteta and Edu. Either it's on Edu because he recommended Arteta the players and he agreed, or it's on Arteta because he wanted the players and overruled Edu, and it also partially is on Edu because he basically had to agree with Arteta. Arteta now is in such a high power role that if again, it's not just with players, it feels like at the moment, it's his way or the highway. So at the end of the day, that means that if they don't agree with Arteta, Arteta will say, hey, screw you, I'm the main man in charge, I get what I want. Or he will go crying to his daddy Josh and complain that nobody's playing nicely with him, basically. Pause. So ultimately, for me, it's Arteta and Edu's fault. Obviously, it's the Kroenkes for hiring a novice in manager role, novice in sporting director role and everything, job for the boys and all that. But if you cannot join, you have to start somewhere. And Arteta, Edu, Garlic, Tim Lewis, all them, man, Sanlehi, and Kroenkes, of course, all of them. Everything needs to change. Like, there is a very nice poem in my where I live, and if I translate it straight up, the title of the poem is "Fish rots from the head." A fish starts to rot from the head, and ultimately that's about life as well. If there's a problem somewhere, it usually comes from the top. Because if everything's fine at the top, then everything should be fine. The middle ground, everything should be well downstairs in the bottom, smaller workers. But at the end of the day, everything starts from the top, and Kroenkes is the top. Or if we just exclude Kroenkes at the moment, it's Arteta and Edu. So everything starts from the top. Fish rots from the head, from the top. So it's Edu and Arteta in this instance with Garlic, Lewis, and all them, man. So it's all their faults. You cannot blame the players. Yes, you can blame the players that it's their performances. For example, they maybe don't stand up to the manager. They don't challenge him. They're only yes men. You can do it that way. But ultimately, it's Edu and Arteta. Of course, Kroenkes are the top. Kroenkes are legitimate top because they own the whole damn thing. But you can look in two ways. Either you look at the whole thing, that Kroenkes, Edu, Arteta, and the rest of them, or you can look at the other way. It's Edu, Arteta, Edu, Lewis, Garlic, and then there's the men, and then there's the players. It's basically two things, and both of them are rotting from the head. It's Kroenkes, and obviously it translates into Arteta, Edu, and then it's never gonna change. And that's what's very scary for me. Because at the moment, when you look at the last 2-3 months, outside the football we're playing on the pitch, it's basically same thing that is what happened in the twilight of the Wenger's career. Same decisions, same PR, same things being said in interviews, more or less, maybe different words, but the same context and everything. And that's what's worrying at the moment as well. Not just the performances on the pitch, but also what is being said in the media by Edu at the time, by Arteta and everyone else. That's what's extra hella worrying for me at the moment. So I guess it is what it is. We'll have to live with it, live day by day and see what happens. But yeah, it is very, 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 very scary at the moment. But yeah, I think on that note, on this somewhat sour note, I'm not gonna lie, we're gonna end it here. Had to vent on this, genuinely had to vent on this, talk about this. So I don't know if you agree or not, but leave that down in comments or in the chat. We can discuss this still for a second, but ultimately, yeah, I guess it is what, fuck's sake, it is what it is. Arteta not even a club legend, why not get a legend? I don't want legends as coaches because that ruins their legacies. Unless you are a top end coach, like that would be different, but I don't want to see certain things like Ljungberg also partially destroyed everything. His legacy at Arsenal with being even the interim and not doing anything, looking like basically a nobody. Imagine if Henry came in on someone like that, that would completely ruin the legacy in my opinion. Patrick Vieira today overtook Genoa in Serie A, by the way. Will be interesting to see how they do, because given his track record, how it happened at Nice, at Crystal Palace, even in MLS, it could be a very bumpy ride. And Vieira is again reunited with Balotelli, by the way, just like he was in Nice. So that will be very interesting to see what happens there. To be honest, I'm looking at Forest's game like hiding behind my couch. You know, as a kid, when you watch a scary movie and you do want to see something, you basically jump and hide behind the couch. That's partially how I am looking at the Forest game, I'm not gonna lie. I'm saying when they went for Arteta, why pull all your chips on someone with stat? Like, I don't know. It's Cronkies, man. They want a yes man, I guess. Why go for someone inexperienced that doesn't know what to do, how to do, and why to do, who learns on the job? It's basically like me applying for managerial role and I get instantly hired as a CEO. And they basically give me all the money, give me all the time, spoon feed me what I need to know, and hope that basically the company doesn't go bust. That's how it looks like from the outside, basically. And that's genuinely not a good look, let's be real. But yeah, I guess at the end of the day, on this somewhat sour note, I'm gonna end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Smash thumbs up, subscribe, trying to hit 400 subscribers by the end of this calendar year. Leave a comment down below, your thoughts, your feelings about Arsenal at the moment, transfer rumors, Arteta decisions and stuff like that. Enjoy your evening. See you all tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday, so it should be interesting what's gonna happen then. But for today, I think take care, stay safe, have a great evening, have a great day tomorrow, and see you guys tomorrow as well. Peace out.